Hello, Internet. Is writing a solo sport? Or in other words, is writing something you do by yourself? The answer is simply no. We're looking at two different issues here, history and socialization. And because they're a little difficult to separate, we're going to deal with both of them simultaneously. Now some of you are thinking, seriously, writing is a solo sport. That love letter I wrote the other day? All me. No one else was even in the room. I wrote the whole thing by myself. But actually, that act of writing was not an individual activity because history. And when we say history, we're not talking about Washington crossed the Delaware on December 25th. When we talk about history and writing research, we're talking about the fact that the tools and practices you use to commit that oh-so-solitary act of love letter writing have sort of a memory. They didn't just show up that day you were alone and thought you'd write something. Let's break it down and look at some of the actors in this scene. We've got you, the love letter writer, but we've also got the tools that make your act of writing possible, pencil and paper. Oh, you say you used a computer? Okay, fine. Pencil, paper, and/or computer. Either way, somebody or somebodies else probably made your paper and your pencil and/or your computer. Take away the tools that existed before you sat down to write, and your act of writing isn't possible. So without those who made the stuff you used to write your letter, your only other option would be to write your love letter in the dirt, which makes it kind of difficult to mail, and depending on your worldview, you might even say that somebody made the dirt too. But let's say you were going super Little House on the Prairie that day. You made your own paper and whittled your pencil from a knife you made out of a rock. Well, then your act of writing was truly individual, right? Well, no. Because you probably didn't invent the concept of paper, nor the concept of pencils, and those little squiggles you put down on the paper, you probably learned those from a kindergarten teacher somewhere. Not to mention the language you're using has been written and spoken by millions of people over thousands of years, and it has shifted and changed because people. And now you use that language because, again, people. They were talking the language around you when you were a baby, and your little language-sucking brain was like absorb, 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 and by age 4, you more or less had it down. And we didn't even mention the fact that the love letter you wrote is a genre that has developed over time because people were like, we're in love, and it just keeps happening. If only we had a type of writing that would allow us to express how in love we are to the person we're in love with. And so you know about love letters because you live in a culture where people have historically used them. And so when we say that writing is historical, we don't mean the stuff you're writing is old, because maybe this feeling of love that you're trying to express in your letter is brand new to you. By history, we mean that the tools, the languages, the genres, and the practices involved in writing all have tales that stretch back through history. Love letters are a thing in the present because they're a thing people have done for a long time. So maybe you're thinking, well, yeah, but not everything was always a thing. And you're right. People do invent stuff. Take cell phones. Back in the Dark Ages, people lived without cell phones. Though it may be difficult to believe, this brick is an early cell phone. So cell phones were once a new thing, right? Well, yes and no. If you look at it as the first phone that you can carry outside of your house, it's kind of new. But if you look at it as a tool that allows you to make contact with people who aren't geographically nearby whilst you are on the go, it's not really new. Because it was just a slightly different response to the old problem of communicating with people who aren't nearby. So here we have some close relatives of the cell phone. And some not so close relatives. A music major student I had once said, all music is derivative. Or basically, all music rips off other music. The same can be said of writing and the tools that we use to produce writing. And even the realization that new stuff comes out of old stuff isn't entirely new. The ancient writer of Ecclesiastes lamented, there is nothing new under the sun. Or maybe you'd prefer to see it through the eyes of Sir Isaac Newton. If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. So in writing your love letter alone in your room, which giant's shoulders are you standing on? Well, that's the word, bird. Until next time, put a little wonder in your wander.